latecomer to Naughty Dog's 2013 smash hit, The Last of Us. It wasn't until we got a PlayStation 4 somewhere around 2018 that I actually got into the game and started playing it. And oh boy, what a game it was. Plot-wise, it doesn't really break a lot of new ground. Zombie apocalypse outbreak happens, society collapses, and the survivors are left to pick up the pieces and try to go on in a world turned upside down. It's the way they tell the story that gets you. The game introduces you to Joel Miller, his daughter Sarah, and Joel's brother Tommy. For a while, you get to control Sarah as she wakes up at the literal dawn of the outbreak. You get to see Joel as a loving and hardworking man who just wants what's best for his daughter and cares deeply for his brother. And when he fails to protect Sarah the night the world ends, his world ends too. That is until circumstances force him to help Ellie, a 14-year-old girl who never knew the world Joel lost, and who is equal parts innocent and fierce as she tries to make sense of the world she does live in and her place in it. See, what's different about Ellie is she was bitten by an infected. But, unlike the rest of humanity, she didn't turn.
Do I look like I'm infected?
Show us your arm.
Yeah, it's not getting any worse, is it?
The game follows Joel and his daughter, quote-unquote Ellie, as they try to make it out west to the Fireflies, a group of rebels who are working on a cure and hope to rebuild society. Ellie might be their key to going back to the way things were. The Last of Us has some of the best gameplay and some of the best graphics I've ever encountered in my gaming career. Look at these buildings. Look at that lightning. It is incredible for a game that came out in 2013. And the sound engineering. This video won't do it justice, but if you play the game with good quality headphones, it sounds and feels like the infected are right in the room with you. There is a sequence in an abandoned Pittsburgh hotel that absolutely puts me on edge every single time I play it. In 2023, HBO debuted The Last of Us TV show, where they turned the game I loved so much into one of the best video game adaptations ever. That's not to say I didn't have issues with the TV show. I definitely wasn't crazy about casting Bella Ramsey as Ellie. For starters, she doesn't look like Ellie and doesn't seem to bring the range and depth to Ellie's childlike wonder and naivety. Watch the difference in the way Ellie is portrayed in these two scenes from the video game and from the TV show.
I shot the hell out of that guy.
Do you see the difference in the way Ellie reacts? In the first one, she's still very childlike and realizes what she's done, and her response to it is one of shock and, gee, I really hope Joel is okay with what I just did. In the TV show, she's almost fascinated by the way Joel is killing this Fedra soldier. The way she looks on and the way she engages with that act of violence is completely different from the way Ellie is portrayed in the video game. I diverge from some of my fellow YouTubers in saying that I liked Pedro Pascal's casting as Joel, even though Troy Baker is the GOAT. They made some changes to Joel as a character that, in hindsight, were probably because of what's coming in Season 2, but more on that in a bit. I also didn't mind the extended episode they gave to Bill and Frank. Bill is only in the game a short period of time, but he makes a lasting impression. Frank is a periphery character and a dark reminder of the cruelty of the infected world. Season 1, Episode 3 gives those characters more depth. It's beautifully filmed and beautifully acted. And yeah, I got a little bit emotional at the end. Especially when Ellie read the letter Bill left for Joel.
I used to hate the world, and I was happy when everyone died. But I was wrong, because there was one person worth saving. That's what I did. I saved him. Then I protected him. That's why men like you and me are here. We have a job to do. And God help any motherfuckers who stand in our way.
Overall, the first season was solid, enjoyable, and I've rewatched it twice. But now, Season 2 is upon us, based on The Last of Us Part 2, and here's where things get complicated. I'll pause here and warn you, spoilers ahead, so if you haven't played the game and don't want Season 2 spoiled for you, stop watching the video now. I've gone back and forth on my feelings for Part 2, the game, over the years, and I've come down on the side of, yeah, it's not that great. It absolutely has some great elements, and it squanders them, and the potential for a great story is there, but it squandered that too. Naughty Dog just didn't stick the landing. This is largely driven by how the game treats Joel. The smart, tough, and daring man from the first game is replaced by a weaker, more careless, and broken man. I absolutely believe this is because certain folks at Naughty Dog didn't like the way fans reacted to Joel after the first game. In several fan surveys, Joel Miller was listed as one of, if not the, best characters in video games. But that's not the only part. At the end of The Last of Us Part 1, Joel, determined not to lose his second daughter, Ellie, goes on a rampage at the Firefly Hospital to save her, killing lots of people in the process and possibly dooming humanity by denying them a cure. Joel then lies to Ellie at the end of The Last of Us, telling her they decided there's no cure as he takes them back to the safety of Jackson, Wyoming, a town set up by his brother, Tommy. As the game and Season 1 end, you're left unsure of whether or not Ellie believes him.
That's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
In a podcast episode about that finale, the showrunners said a survey of people found that almost 100% of parents supported Joel's decision, and even though creator Neil Druckmann and showrunner Craig Mazin also say they supported Joel's decision, part of me feels like the changes made to Joel in Part 2 of the game were a response to fan adoration of that character, a la the way they changed the Joker from the movie before to the sequel that came out last year. When I first played Part 2 of the game and got to that cutscene, I almost turned it off and walked away. You know the scene I'm talking about.
Joel.
How could they do that to Joel? How could they do that to Ellie? And I hated the new character they introduced, Abby. She killed Joel, and I wanted nothing to do with her.
Please get up!
Abnormally hulking and rage-inducing, I despised Abby. And when the game forced me to play as her, I almost turned it off again. I didn't want anything to do with this monster who killed Joel. I didn't want to understand her. I didn't want to play with her. I wanted nothing to do with her. But after many hours, I finished the game. I will admit there is some excellent gameplay and some amazing graphics. I mean, look at this landscape. It's incredible. But the heart of The Last of Us, the first game, was the relationships between people, and specifically the relationship between Joel and Ellie. In Part 1, we spend hours of gameplay building up that relationship as they get to know each other, trust each other, and love each other, and we get to know, trust, and love them. In part 2, Joel and Ellie spend very little time together, and when they do, it's largely contentious and painful to watch. The Last of Us 2 doesn't really explore how they deal with Ellie's realization Joel lied about what happened at the hospital, except to say that she's mad at him. And it never really gives them a chance to reconcile. It teases it, but it never comes to fruition. Joel is bludgeoned to death with a 9-iron in the opening hour of the game and then only pops up in flashbacks. Ellie as a character also becomes rudderless without Joel, risking everything to chase Abby from Wyoming to Seattle and then blowing up her semi-normal life back in Wyoming to pursue Abby again, this time to Santa Barbara, only to let Abby go in the end. What a joke. I am not alone in this. The Last of Us Part 1 sold 12.7 million copies in its first year, with the remaster that came out a couple years later selling 17.8 million copies. In total, it has sold over 37 million copies in the 9 years since its release. Part 2 started off strong, selling 4 million copies in its opening weekend, but as fans got to see what was in the game, the sales dropped off a cliff. In its first year, it sold 10.3 million copies. During a pandemic, mind you, when people were forced to be at home doing nothing else but playing video games. And that number doesn't seem to have increased significantly in the 5 years since the pandemic. The remastered version dropped in 2024, and finding solid numbers on sales for either version is challenging. I fear the same thing is going to happen with Season 2 because there is a very big hurdle for the creators to overcome. They have a game that wasn't popular with fans that they are going to now turn into a show. Do they stick to that game, or do they make changes to cater to the viewing audience of Season 1 of the show? I'm not sure what they're going to do. At least one trailer for Season 2 shows Joel in what appears to be a therapy session with Catherine O'Hara. And if that's what it is, and I'm right about that, what a waste of an actress. And it doesn't give me hope that the show will do better by our beloved Joel. That's not anything anyone in a post-apocalyptic world would have time for. Going to therapy, I mean. Even if Jackson is a safe, thriving community, you'd be farming, building houses, repairing fences, running patrols to look for infected and raiders. You'd still just be trying to survive. You wouldn't have time for a therapy session in the world of The Last of Us. And more importantly, that's not who Joel is as a character. Even if he's older and physically slows down a little bit, Joel was always a tough, smart, and determined survivor. But we see at the end of Season 1 where Joel confesses to Ellie that the scar he has on his forehead, something that wasn't in the game, by the way, is from somebody who, quote, shot and missed him. And actually, in reality, it was Joel's failed attempt to unalive himself.
I was the guy who shot and missed. There's no story. Sarah died, and I couldn't see the point anymore. Simple as that.
So I guess what I'm saying is buckle up, because I'm not entirely sure where Season 2 is going to take us. Will they largely stick to the game for better or worse, despite the lackluster fan reception to it? Or will they tweak it? I think the answer lies somewhere in the middle. For example, not only did they make the changes in the trailer that I mentioned before, but the actress cast as Abby doesn't look a thing like Abby from the video game, which makes me believe that they did hear at least some of the fan criticisms about that character. Well, anyway, I guess we'll see what happens. Season 2 is scheduled to be 7 episodes long, and my plan is to bring you weekly updates on Mondays, recapping the show, reacting to the show, and discussing what's going on in The Last of Us. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next week.